The Pakistan Army Chief Asim Munir, behind the failed attempts by Pakistan to strike India, behind the failed attempts to shield Pakistan from Operation Sindur, has actually been promoted. Proof really that Pakistan is truly a country of the bizarre. Asim Munir, for failing to thwart India's Operation Sindur, for failing to strike with drones, missiles and whatever they sent at India, failing to do his job, has actually been promoted. He's been made a field marshal. And this promotion comes after the Pakistan army military was completely demolished, decimated and defeated by our forces. Pakistan has promoted Asim Munir to Field Marshal, which is the highest rank in the Pakistan Armed Forces. And so that makes Asim Munir only the second Field Marshal in Pakistan's history, after Ayub Khan, who entitled himself for this slot. In a way, you can look at this essentially as Asim Munir ensuring his own protection, because we all know who calls the shots in Pakistan. But it's the Pakistan cabinet that's approved this promotion for Asim Munir. And like I said, the fact that he's only the second Field Marshal in Pakistan really tells you how completely oblivious they are to the reality of what happened just a few days ago. So this is the big update that's coming in right now. Asim Munir has been promoted by the Pakistan government for essentially the Pakistan army being defeated by the Indian army, for the Pakistan army failing to detect any of the missiles or drones that we'd sent their way, for the successful Operation Sindur, or for that matter, Pakistan's attempts at hitting back at India, all of which was thwarted. And yet, Asim Munir, no, is not pulled up, but is promoted. Geeta Mohan, a foreign affairs editor, is joining us with more on this. Geeta, recognition for Asim Munir, perhaps for the failures of the Pakistan army, but he's been made Field Marshal, and we understand he's only the second general to get such a recognition, highest honor essentially for the Pakistan army chief.
Well, that's right, Akshita. Look at how this entire thing has played out in Pakistan. It just seems like General Asim Munir was on an agenda, and he's fulfilled his agenda of being now promoted as Field Marshal. You know that in Pakistan, having an anti-India agenda has always been the focus. But to go to the extent of using not just terrorism as an instrument of state policy, but to use terrorism and terrorist infrastructure to further your own personal agenda and interests. Like we've been talking about, the fact that everything that has been done so far has been at the behest of, or at the on the orders of, General Asim Munir. Whether it is calling for the kind of meetings that were called for, giving a free hand to the army that was done by the civilian government. Of course, it was Asim Munir who'd asked Shahbaz Sharif to give a free hand to the army. And now Asim Munir again here at the helm of affairs in many ways than one, with the civilian dispensation now, passing the entire move, bipartisan move to promote him as Field Marshal. So. Okay. It's a very personal move by General Asim.
In a way, many would say that this is essentially a self-promotion. Gaurav Sawant is joining us with more on this. Gaurav, it's like I said, Pakistan is a country of the bizarre. That when the Pakistan army fails, what happens? You see not the army chief being pulled up, but rather being promoted.
So it remains to be seen whether he's being kicked upstairs or whether he retains all the powers as army chief, as Field Marshal. Remember, in India, both times when Gen Karyappa was made the army chief and when Sam Manekshaw was made the army chief, that was a ceremonial post. However, in the Pakistan army, Ayub Khan retained all powers as Field Marshal. So only the army chief is respected in Pakistan. You're absolutely right. He was a disaster as an army chief. General Asim Munir was responsible not just for a series of terror attacks. His disasters include the setback that Pakistan army received in Balochistan, the setback they received in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and also operations against India when India launched Operation Sindur. However, just to save himself, he makes himself the Field Marshal. Again, it would remain to be seen what happens after this. Because even Pervez Musharraf, when he became the president and was no longer the army chief, it was an exit route that was given to him. In Pakistan, it's the case of the box of mangoes. For example, Ziaul Haq, when they wanted to get rid of him, there was a box of mangoes that was put in that C-130 aircraft, and that case of mangoes exploded. Asim Munir is hugely unpopular even in his own country. There are a section of corps commanders who do not like him. Is this an exit route that is being given to him? We will have to wait and watch. But his control of power so far had been brutal. He got rid of several corps commanders who were opposed to him. He got rid of the entire hierarchy that was close to Imran Khan. So Asim Munir has consolidated his control over power in the past. What happens in the days, weeks and months ahead remains to be seen.
So let's see if he controls and remains essentially the boss of Pakistan. And the reason I say that is we all know, of course, and it's well documented that the Pakistan army calls all the shots in Pakistan. The civilian government is essentially a puppet government. So is it Asim Munir essentially promoting himself, or has he been kicked top like Gaurav has said? Thanks very much, Gaurav, for joining us with all of those details. I request Geeta to stay on with us for her input on our next story, our top focus here on Super 6. We're counting down to the all-party delegation that will be visiting different countries to set the record straight on why, where and how Operation Sindur was conducted. 59 members of parliament have been handpicked for this operation. They will be spreading the word on Pakistan being a terror state and why India had to hit terror bases. The message is clear from India that while there may be politics, there may be questions, there may be differences between the government and the opposition, when it comes to Pakistan, when it comes to bleeding India, we stand as one, in one voice, united as a country against terror, which is great to see that you've got the right message being sent across. So MPs from all political parties are being briefed in groups to expose Pakistan. It's a unique exercise that isn't really government policy, but reportedly the government's initiative to ensure every country gets the message on India's stand against terror. So we've seen one group being briefed by Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri as they're set to head out in 2 days from now to different countries. And so essentially the confirmation has come in from the MPs who are a part of that delegation that some issues were brought up, and all of those issues were essentially addressed by the Foreign Secretary on what is really the government stand, what's the country stand on different aspects of Operation Sindur. Now also what's been confirmed by several of the MPs there who've been a part of that briefing is that they are going to be visiting countries that are members of the UNSC, and then 5 other countries that will become members of the UNSC in the days to come. I'll be explaining that to you as to why each of these countries have been chosen. But this is going to be a long exercise that will continue for the next few months. Many groups have been identified essentially to send out a message of zero tolerance to terror.
I was able to introduce the committee to my colleague Sri Ravi Shankar Prasad, who will be leading the delegation that is going to Paris in 2 days' time. So that was also a good opportunity for him to say hello to them and for them to meet him in advance. However, this committee is still traveling and may not be back in France when Raviji gets there, but he will meet their colleagues and others in Paris. French delegation not just expressed solidarity, they used the word soutien, which in English means support. They expressed support for India at this difficult time.
It was developments as they happened. Pakistan DGMO called our DGMO and said, we want to call this off, we want a ceasefire. And our DGMO said, if that's what you are doing, we will reciprocate. You escalated, we reciprocated. You want to call it off, we reciprocate. But please do it seriously. That's all I was done. जो देश में राजनीति है, जो देश में हमारा अधिकार है, दायित्व है, वो अलग है. देश के बारे में बाहर जाकर जो बोलना है वो अलग है.
The main topic or the main message of this delegation to the entire world is fight against terrorism, zero tolerance against terrorism. Terrorism which is proliferating in the soils of Pakistan and spreading to India. Every time some of the other attack which is happening on India, and now it is not limited only to India, but it is spreading to the entire world. US also has suffered the same terrorism activities. UK also suffered, UAE has also suffered, some parts of Africa has also suffered.
ऑक्सीवाद एक तरह से 40 साल से देश झेल रहा है हम लोगों ने हर एक समय एविडेंस दिया, चीज़ें दी, लेकिन जैसे चोर को कहा जाता है कि आप ही आकर के जांच कीजिए, उस तरह का उसका हरकत रहा है, वो खुद ही कराता है। अब एक न्यू नॉर्मल जो आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा है कि अब इस तरह का घटना होगा तो हम लोग भी जाके हिट कर सकते हैं, जो प्रूव करके दिखाया। तो और लार्जली ये चीज़ देना कि भाई टेररिज्म का जो रूट है सिर्फ इंडिया ही नहीं, दुनिया में कहीं टेररिस्ट एक्टिविटी होता है उसका कहीं न कहीं लिंक पाकिस्तान में निकल जाता है। तो इस चीज़ से भी सेंसिटाइज करना,
एक्सपोज करना पूरा पाकिस्तान,
पूरा जो, और ये कहना कि कोई ये टेररिस्ट ग्रुप कोई आइसोलेशन में नहीं आ रहा है, इनका पूरा पैटर्न जो है, पूरा फंडिंग, ट्रेनिंग, सारा का सारा पाकिस्तान आर्मी और वहाँ की सरकार करवाती है।
Okay, let's bring in our reporters on this broadcast. We've got our Foreign Affairs Editor Geeta Mohan. We've got Piyush Mishra, who tracks all the updates coming in from the government. Moshmi Singh, who's getting asked what many of these members of parliament have to say. Moshmi, I'll begin with you. You've been tracking the latest that came in on the briefing by Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri. What really have MPs told you about that briefing? What were the issues that were brought up? What was the government's response?
Clearly, Akshita, there were no dissenting voices. This meeting, an all-party meeting happening in the parliament, it's unusual that you would have no dissenting voices. And the topic was such. We were told by members that everybody listened carefully, they had their questions. The talking points will be given by the government as they turn emissaries going out into the world, to in fact, build the image of brand India, talk about how India is standing against terrorism, how the new normal is that no more tolerance to terrorism, and we have the right to respond. So I heard all those things when I was speaking to all these MPs. Importantly, they will be given regular briefings by Indian diplomats according to the country they go to, and they will be given talking points. They will be meeting ministers and ambassadors and of course parliamentarians and community leaders and think tanks. And in fact, it's very interesting, even the former External Affairs Minister Salman Khurshid, he pointed out that domestic politics notwithstanding, when we go out, it's not about Indian planes being downed or what Donald Trump had to say. We all speak in one voice. We stand with the government saying it's a bilateral issue, and if you want to talk about the Indian planes being downed, it's the army that has to speak on that. It's not our domain. So very important highlight there.
And it's great to see. You did mention that it's unusual in an all-party delegation for there to be consensus. It's great to see that on an issue of national security, on a stand against terror, we're united and we speak in one voice. This is the kind of, messaging that we need to send across to the global community as well. I'll bring in Piyush Mishra also to understand where essentially this thought came from, Piyush. Why has the government chosen to take this step? Like I said earlier, this isn't a policy of sorts. This is a step taken by the government to also ensure perhaps more inclusivity in taking on Pakistan.
Well, Akshita, what we're learning from our sources within the government that this entire thought came in from the earlier governments of the country, be it about NDA government or UPA government. You would remember that during the Atal Bihari Vajpayee's tenure, when India had gone into fight with Pakistan, a war with Pakistan. After that, also you would remember that multiple delegations had visited various parts of the world, and once again we are now seeing similar sort of exercise being done. One thing is clear, that government wants to tell the global community that yes, it's the Pakistan which is sponsoring terror. It's the Pakistan which has been carrying out terror attacks against India since 1947, and India only this time after Operation Sindur has only reacted back to the escalation which was done by Pakistan. So what we are told from our sources is that all evidence, all the kind of involvement of Pakistan in terror attacks in India, all these things will be shared with the global community. What we are also told is that the delegation members will be meeting with various ministers, various MPs of these countries, and they will be apprised about the entire Operation Sindur and what was the need of carrying out this operation.
Okay, Piyush, thanks for those details. I'll bring in a foreign affairs editor also, Geeta Mohan, on this. Geeta, interestingly, while India's taken this very unique initiative of sending members of parliament across the world to specific countries to send out the message on what Pakistan has been doing by harboring terrorists, Pakistan seems to have initiated a similar movement now.
Well, absolutely. Copycat syndrome, but nonetheless, it's also counter. Now, what is going to happen, and a big challenge for India will be, there are 7 delegations that will be going to various world capitals. What are the kind of and level of meetings that they will be able to secure? And if Pakistan is able to secure the same level of meetings in those respective nations, particularly Washington, D.C. will be of great importance, Akshita. We'll be monitoring and seeing who Shashi Tharoor-led delegation is really going to meet. And should Bilawal Bhutto Zardari manage similar levels of meeting, then it certainly will raise a lot of questions on where America stands and the position America has taken. Similarly, in various other countries, challenges are huge, but India goes with a very firm and a very strong position. That is, that India is fighting terrorism. Countries that are going to give the same level or accord the same level of honor, respect and meetings to Pakistan should know that they are the ones who have to answer and should be held accountable for a lot when it comes to state sponsor of terrorism, when it comes to not holding terrorists accountable or those perpetrators accountable on their soil, and that they allowed so many terror hubs to thrive for so many decades.
Okay, Geeta, thanks very much for those details. I'd like to thank Piyush and Moshmi also for joining us on this broadcast. But important to highlight here, which are the countries that these MPs will be going to? Like I told you, 50 plus members of parliament. And it's not like each MP has been assigned one country. These are groups that have been established. I'll run you through each of these groups. Group 1, essentially, has, in fact, Baijan Panda, BJP leader, and several others who are part of different parties, like Asaduddin Owaisi of the AIMIM, Ghulam Nabi Azad. All of them will be part of one particular delegation. They will be visiting Saudi Arabia, they'll be visiting Kuwait, Bahrain, and Algeria. So that's one group. The other group, Group 2, and this is, of course, the first group. We've listed out the names for you, but each of these groups has one leader, a senior member of parliament, and then you have others also. For example, in Group 2, you've got Ravi Shankar Prasad essentially leading it, and then you have several other members from the TDP, from the Sena UBT, Priyanka Chaturvedi there in Group 2, MJ Akbar. They'll be visiting UK, France, Germany, EU, Italy, and Denmark. Let's slow that down for you. Let's go back to Group 3, in which you have, in fact, all right. Let's take you through Group 3 there. That's Sanjay Kumar Jha of the JDU who's leading it, and then a whole lot of names from the TMC. Importantly, it's Abhishek Banerjee who will also be here. In all likelihood, he's part of this particular group. This group will focus on Indonesia, Malaysia, Korea, Japan, and Singapore. So you see one particular region that's been identified for each group. Group 4 has Shrikant Shinde as the leader, the son of Eknath Shinde. This has the likes of Bhasuri Swaraj. You have also SS Ahluwalia ambassadors also who are a part of these delegations. They'll be focusing on Africa as well as the UAE, United Arab Emirates. Group 5, this is perhaps one of the most crucial of the lot. Shashi Tharoor is going to be leading it. There was, of course, controversy over this because his name wasn't formally proposed by the Congress, and yet the government chose Shashi Tharoor. There's a reason for that because of how important this particular delegation is. It's got Ambassador Taranjit Singh Sandhu, it's got Milind Deora, it's got Tejaswi Surya. This delegation will be visiting America. Besides, of course, as you can see, Panama, Brazil, Colombia, and several other countries as well. But America is one to watch out for. Group 6 has Kanimuri of the DMK as the leader and several other members of parliament as well as ambassadors. They'll be visiting largely parts of Europe as well as Russia too. It was this group along with several others who got that briefing today because Kanimuri and this delegation will be leaving in 2 days from now. Group 7 has Supriya Sule of the NCP as the leader, Manish Tiwari, Anurag Thakur, all of them are part of this particular grouping. Egypt, Qatar, Ethiopia, South Africa is what they'll be covering. So you've got all of these countries being covered by these delegations, 7 groups in all, 59 members of parliament. You will notice that in each of these groups also there are ambassadors who are there to ensure that all the necessary diplomatic outreaches, details are taken care of as well. But what does this achieve? What's the purpose of this kind of a diplomatic outreach? Well, it's multifold. First, to brief nations about the Pahalgam terror attack, which happened on April 22nd. You'll see a timeline being provided. First, to mention the Pahalgam terror attack, and then talk about why there was a need for India to respond. So they look to answer all of these questions of why, when, where, and how as well. So essentially, India's military response through Operation Sindur, there'll be details of how Operation Sindur was carried out, of how we ensured that we only targeted terror camps in Pakistan and POK, nothing beyond that. And then talk about how Pakistan tried to target our civilian settlements, our military establishments, to which we retaliated. And there's also a very important message of unity that's being sent across to this country, that India speaks in one voice on this issue. We're also showing, of course, national consensus on combating terror and also to ensure that Pakistan pays the price. Importantly, we're refuting Pakistan's narrative regarding India's actions. It's been rather dismissive, their narrative, which is completely thwarted essentially with this kind of an exercise. Our commitment to countering cross-border terror, extremely crucial, because we're also seeking stronger action against Pakistan for going ahead and harboring these terrorists. Now, an important step that we're pushing for is in the Financial Action Task Force, the FATF. What we hope for will be a big takeaway from these delegations being sent across is that Pakistan is grey listed by the FATF, which was done previously, and then that grey list was lifted. We're looking at ensuring that's happening again. But is this the first time we're seeing these kind of all-party delegations being sent out? Not really. There have been different versions of this, not exactly what we're seeing right now, but different versions. What do I mean by that? In 1994, you had Pakistan moving a resolution against India over Kashmir in Geneva at the UN Human Rights Commission. So at that point, a delegation was sent by P.V. Narasimha Rao. It included Atal Bihari Vajpayee, it included Farooq Abdullah. They were sent across to Geneva to present India's case at the UNHRC, which was at that time unprecedented. And then what happened after that? This delegation successfully ensured that this resolution was shot down. There was a massive international support that we got also. So Pakistan's attempt in 1994 failed before the UNHRC as a result of, again, India standing and speaking in one voice. Then in 2008, you had a global diplomatic outreach post the 26/11 Mumbai attacks. What did this look like? It was essentially multi-party delegations that were sent to various world capitals. So again, different from what we've seen right now, but multi-party delegations were sent across. Now, Pakistan was grey listed by the FATF. There was also a lot more international pressure because you had globally condemnation pouring in from many of these countries that these multi-party delegations visited. So yes, it's worked before. Yes, it's helped in putting pressure on Pakistan. And that's the attempt right here by going ahead and taking this kind of a step of ensuring that we spread the word as much as we can, and we don't just limit it to the government but to every single representative of political parties as well. So how have these countries been handpicked for this particular exercise? Why are some countries part of the list and others not? Well, if you look at the list that I read out earlier of the 7 groups, current UNSC members have been covered. So that's the list of countries that I've mentioned here, of course excluding Pakistan. So we're trying to create a consensus among the UNSC members, but also we're thinking ahead. Members who are going to be joining the UNSC, incoming UNSC members too, we're sending delegations across. So that's Denmark, Greece, Panama, Somalia, Latvia, and the list goes on. These are incoming UNSC members. What we're showing is current. This is the incoming UNSC members. We've covered all of them too. And then, of course, there are the permanent UNSC members, the ones who have all the say. America, UK, France, Russia, all of them are part of this list. China also is a permanent member, but we're not going to China because we know exactly where China stands. They've been openly supporting Pakistan. So at this point, we are not making any effort to reach out to China. All the other permanent UNSC members, we're sending delegations across too. And then It's not just UNSC, but getting solidarity and a consensus from key Muslim nations as well. So you have Saudi Arabia in that, UAE, Qatar, Egypt, Kuwait, Indonesia, Malaysia. We've reached out to all of these countries. So you look at what we're doing. UNSC, Muslim nations, we're getting all of them essentially to kind of send across a message that we will not agree to, in fact, any country that harbors terrorists, and isolate Pakistan as well. So besides that, G7, EU, we've covered all of them, the G20, BRICS, strategic partners. That's how we've drawn up this entire list. All right, let's move on and talk about essentially the politics that we've been seeing over Operation Sindur. Yes, there's solidarity, there's unity that we're seeing as far as this all-party delegation goes, but that doesn't mean that we've not been seeing a fair share of political back and forth between the BJP and the Congress. And it's happened with this kind of images, social media, memes, war of words that's playing out. This is a picture that the BJP released to claim that Rahul Gandhi is essentially towing Pakistan's agenda, with a picture where they've split him essentially with the Pakistan Army Chief Asim Munir. And then you had essentially the Congress hitting back with their own picture where they've targeted Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well. Let's get you all of those reactions.
Modi ಅವರು 17ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು ಕಾಶ್ಮೀರ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗೋರಿದ್ರು. ಆದ್ರೆ 17ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು ಕಾಶ್ಮೀರ್ಗೆ ನೀವು ಹೋಗಬೇಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಅವರ ಬೆವುಗಾರಿಕೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ನೀವು ಹೋಗಬೇಡಿ, ಪಾಕಿಸ್ತಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ಕಾಶ್ಮೀರ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಗಲಾಟೆ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನೀವು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದ್ರು. ಇದು ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ದಾಗ 17ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು ನೀವು ಕಾಶ್ಮೀರ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮವನ್ನ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ನೀವು ಯಾಕೆ ಈ ಟೂರಿಸ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಪೊಲೀಸರ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳಲಿಲ್ಲ? ನೀವು ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಡಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತೊಂದರೆ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಮಾತು ನೀವು ಹೇಳಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ 26 ಪ್ರಾಣಗಳನ್ನ ಉಳಿತೀವು ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಈಗೇನು ನಾವು ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಚುಟ್ಪುಟ್ಟು ಯುದ್ಧಗಳು ನಡೆದಿವೆ ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಪಾಕಿಸ್ತಾನ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ನಾವೇನು ಘರ್ಷಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ, ಪಾಕಿಸ್ತಾನ ಕೆಲಸ ಅಂತೂ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಬರೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಭಾರತ ದೇಶ ಮೇಲೆ ಗೂಬಿ ಕೂಡಿಸ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಶಕ್ತಿಹೀನರು. ಇವತ್ತು ಚೈನಾದಿಂದ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಮೇಲೆ ದಾಳಿ ಮಾಡತಕ್ಕಂತ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನವನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
भाई पाकिस्तान के कितने प्लेन गिरे वो हमारी फौज ने हमें बता दिया और हम आश्वस्त हैं. पाकिस्तान के कितने एयरबेस डिस्ट्रॉय किए हमने वो हमें हमारे डीजीएमओ ने बता दिया. उसमें हमें किसी राजनीतिक नेतृत्व की जवाब की आवश्यकता नहीं है. हमें फौज पर भरोसा है, हमारे सैन्य बलों पर भरोसा है. हमें भरोसा अगर नहीं है तो अपने राजनीतिक नेतृत्व पर नहीं है ये जो देश के. और डोनाल्ड ट्रंप 7 बार बोल रहे हैं कि उन्होंने मध्यस्थता करके रुकवाया, उन्होंने सीज फायर करवाया, उन्होंने ट्रेड रोकने की धमकी देकर ऑपरेशन सिंदूर रुकवाया. क्या सिंदूर का सौदा होने देंगे हम? और सवाल नहीं पूछेंगे हम, अपने राजनीतिक नेतृत्व से सरकार से सवाल पूछेंगे.
यू आर द हीरो ऑफ पाकिस्तान राहुल गांधी. आप और आपके नेता आज पाकिस्तान के हीरो हैं. हर न्यूज चैनल में आप चल रहे हैं. और केवल आज ही नहीं, जिस समय ऑपरेशन सिंदूर हुआ था उस समय भी पाक के डीजीएमओ ने प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में आपके बयानों को दिखाया था, आपके नेताओं के बयानों को दिखाया था. और आपके नेताओं के बयानों को दिखाते हुए कहा था कि देखो, जो हम पाकिस्तानी कह रहे हैं वही सही है, इंडिया तो झूठ बोल रही है. आप पाकिस्तान को ऑक्सीजन देने का काम करते हैं.
और जो लोग पाकिस्तान के पाखंडी प्रोपेगेंडे के प्रॉक्सी प्रमोटर्स बनने की भूमिका निभा रहे हैं, ये वो लोग हैं जो लोग कभी देश के संविधान पे सवाल खड़े करते हैं, संसद पे सवाल खड़े करते हैं, संवैधानिक संस्थाओं पे सवाल खड़े करते हैं, और अब सेना पर और हमारी सुरक्षा पर भी जो है वो बवाल करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. जहाँ तक सवाल है, ये जो डेलीगेशन जा रहा है, ये डेलीगेशन कांग्रेस पार्टी का डेलीगेशन नहीं है. और लगातार जो लोग जो है वो इस तरह के हिमाकत भरी बातें कर रहे हैं, वो मुझे लगता है कि अपना किसी भी तरह का राजनीतिक लाभ नहीं कर पा रहे हैं.
We've seen the heaviest rain of the year in Bengaluru. There's been unprecedented rainfall. There's no doubt about that. But that coupled with civic apathy, with absolute sheer neglect, is what's led to 3 lives being lost in Bengaluru in a single day. It's what's led to roads being flooded, homes submerged, and a city, a tech city like Bengaluru, being brought down to its knees. This is a story that happens every single time. Guess what the government was doing all through? People struggling to commute to their offices to get back home. The Siddaramaiah government was celebrating their 2-year anniversary. That's the priority number 1 for them. So they weren't even in Bengaluru.
India's IT hub sinking under flood, sparked by heaviest downpour this year. The city on its knees with key roads, metro stations and bus terminals flooded. And boats were seen on its roads to rescue those who were stranded. The city witnessed 3 rain-related deaths. In BTM layout, 12-year-old Dinesh and 63-year-old Manmohan Kamath were electrocuted while trying to drain floodwater from their homes. Earlier in Whitefield, a 35-year-old woman was crushed when a wall collapsed.
Sai layout in Horamavu is famous for Sai Baba temple, and this is that Sai Baba temple in Sai layout, which is completely flooded. And if you notice that, as I told you earlier, the water was up to hip level. Now it has been receded, but it is not gone completely. But still there are slush inside the temple. The temple is completely flooded with slush, dirt and sewage water. And imagine the kind of the kind of suffering that the people have to go through because of these kind of flooded water.
It is a nearly 14 crore worth of project, very big project in fact, being done under the supervision of the railway authorities. And there are so many interdepartment coordination, etc. activities involved. All those are now attended, solved in past 1 year. What I am trying to tell you is, you only told me that from 10 years it did not happen. What I am trying to tell you is, from past 1 year, because of the intervention of Honorable Deputy CM and the Chief Commissioner and senior officers and the coordination efforts of the department and the railway authorities and other agencies, this has done some progress.
But amid the mounting woes and cases of deaths, the Siddaramaiah government is busy celebrating 2 years in power. With Congress Chief Mallikarjun Kharge and Congress MP Rahul Gandhi in attendance, promoting BJP to hit out hard.
DK Shukumar and other senior Congress leaders, every time they speak about Greater Bangalore. Adding Greater to Bangalore name will not resolve the crisis. Last 2 years, they have done nothing for Bangalore city. Travel across Bangalore, you will see only potholes, water clogging everywhere. So this government is not at all serious about Karnataka development.
Our Honorable AIC President Mallikarjun Kharge ji, our leader and leader opposition Rahul Gandhi ji, Siddaramaiah ji, DK Shukumar, all the leaders are going to participate here. It is a historic, send a message that in 2 years, what we have promised, we have delivered. For the people of Karnataka, the people are very happy because whatever we have promised, all 5 guarantees have been implemented.
Is Siddaramaiah government putting celebrations above governance? With Sagai Raj, Bureau Report, India Today.
And finally, the Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah is getting down to action. Will be conducting inspection rounds across Bengaluru tomorrow after the water is drained, a full 24 to 48 hours after torrential downpour in the city. He could have done it today, but no, the 2-year anniversary event was more important. But amid outrage, anger voiced by citizens of Bengaluru here on India Today, the Karnataka Chief Minister has woken up. And so tomorrow he's going to be conducting rounds. Sagai Raj is joining us live from Bengaluru. Sagai, you waded through knee-deep, sometimes waist-deep water to show us the situation in Bengaluru. I'm sure it's bone dry right now. Conveniently, then is when Chief Minister Siddaramaiah will be out there.
The Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah will be back in Bengaluru by tonight, and he will be taking a city round tomorrow morning. In fact, he was supposed to take a city round yesterday, and it started to rain in the evening. And the CMO office has given an excuse stating that since it is raining, they will not be able to look into all the places. It will be a hurdle for them, and since they have dropped the plan of city rounds, and thereafter they went to the war room and they took stock of the situation. They have spoken to the concerned officers when it comes to the rescue operation as well as waterlogging clearance. And thereafter, they have given instructions, and they're saying that they have to work on war foot and ensure that clears the waterlogging every nook and corner of Bengaluru wherever it is flooding. And tomorrow they will again take a city round, and we need to wait and watch what will be the outcome of this, because they have already announced the compensation. They have already spoken to the commissioner. Probably this is just for a photo op for them, because almost all the water logging will get cleared if at all, if it doesn't rain tonight or tomorrow early morning. And probably once they go there, they will not get to see anything what they have.
It's bizarre. You know, what you're telling us, Sagai, is that they were supposed to go out yesterday. Fine, it was raining. What was his excuse today? Why didn't they cancel that event and focus on what's happening in Bengaluru? It's too much to expect, really, from our netas to prioritize the people first. Thanks very much, Sagai, for joining us with those details. But I'd like to also bring in on this broadcast some voices from the city of Bengaluru. Harish Bijur, who is a brand expert, but also someone who's lived in Bengaluru for the last many years, is joining us on this broadcast. Mr. Bijur, thank you for your time. I want to first understand from you, sir, what's the situation in your area? Because, you know, when you see these images from Bengaluru and from different parts of the city, sitting here in Delhi, you almost feel like the whole city essentially is suffering and underwater.
Well, the place I live in is reasonably insulated, you know, fundamentally because, you know, it is at a higher level, and it is a slightly more organized Bengaluru. It is also not the business district of Bengaluru, at least the new business districts of Bengaluru, which is totally concretized. So we still have a little bit of mud, a little bit of sand, a little bit of water that can actually seep through. So I think relatively better where I am. But these have been those crazy days, those mad days. Once again, we visit it every once in a while, mostly once a year.
And I'm glad to hear that your area is safe, is fine. But Mr. Bijur, you know, you've joined us for countless such broadcasts where we talk about what's wrong in Bengaluru. Every few months, the focus is on how terribly the city has been planned, and yet nothing changes. There's a lot of talk by the government that we're doing this, we're doing that. But at the end of the day, as a Bengalurian, Mr. Bijur, do you feel disappointed by the fact that nothing's changed? It's the same story every single time?
Oh, yes. I, like many of the other citizens of this great big city, which all of us love, are certainly disappointed. Because, you know, we seem to write a self-fulfilling prophecy of repeat every year. You know, people talk about it, media also grabs it and runs with it for possibly a week. And after that, it's a cold potato item. And I think, you know, we do not have the commitment to sort out the issues at hand. That commitment is certainly missing.
And, you know, commitment, I think, from every side. I want to focus first on the fact that very often when you say, shouldn't the government do something about this, Mr. Bijur, the government says, look, we have to develop. This is a city that's expanding. There's limited space. So what happens? You see development on lake beds. You see lakes being encroached on, not just the lake bed. So, you know, very often it's a toss-up. Do you ensure development, or do you ensure the right kind of urban infrastructure?
You know, firstly, all of us know why all this happens. It happens because of greed. Bengaluru is overbuilt. We have gone and grabbed every little piece of land wherever it is. We've even encroached lakes in several categories. And, you know, we built over it. Even some public properties have been built over a lake bed. So, you know, let's typically say the Kantirva, you know, indoor stadium is possibly over the Sanpangi tank lake bed. So I think, you know, we've gotten greedy. So the entire situation is greed. Greed has run the entire agenda thus far. And therefore, my entire solution to cut this greed is to say that we need to take a back step. And we need to say that greed is not good. Greed is bad. In fact, greed is ugly. And by that, I typically mean to say that we need to stop the magnet allure of Bengaluru for a while. This is a large city. We're a city of 152 lakh people. The city can hold only 110 lakh people, theoretically speaking. So if you ask me, we need to demagnetize Bengaluru. And that's the clarion call I keep giving every once in a while, whenever disasters of these kinds, rattle up our lives.
Are you suggesting, Mr. Bijur, that the only solution here and that the government should immediately do this is to actually de-urbanize Bengaluru?
I think it is correct to de-urbanize Bengaluru. It is correct to say that, all new offices and all new pieces of infrastructure will not come in the same terrain which we used to know as Bengaluru. Because today we are something called a Greater Bengaluru Authority, and we might have 3 municipal corporations coming up. But the territory that this occupies, this should be considered to be existing Bengaluru. And existing Bengaluru cannot encourage more development. We need to put a stop to this, ostentatious development in inverted commas, which we seem to focus so much upon.
And, as much as we talk of Bengaluru here, I'd also like to ask you, Mr. Bijur, about other cities that, this isn't just about Bengaluru. This seems to be a pan-India problem. It's the same situation in Chennai with a downpour. You will see the same problem of flooded roads every monsoon. Here in Delhi, where I am currently, the smallest spell of rainfall will lead to flooding. Is it that we just don't know how to develop cities smartly?
Yes. We've got hijacked onto this development bandwagon. Development is not putting up new buildings and attracting investments into those buildings and getting in people to work, n numbers of hours and create. Development is much more. It needs to be much more balanced. And that balanced development is all about ensuring that we don't hurt our trees. Now, we don't bother about our trees. We just are cutting down trees like nobody's business. We don't bother about our waterways, about keeping them clean, our Raja Kaluways, our big drainages. I mean, the public also has a role to play. In this city, my key worry is that Bengaluru, nobody owns Bengaluru. Bengaluru is a rented city. In a rented city, you don't much bother. In an owned city, you bother. And that being bothered is an attitude we need to bring back in our governance structure and most certainly within the citizenry of the city.
So my final question to you, Mr. Bijur, since you say that citizens should care and you shouldn't think that, you've moved into the city temporarily, so you don't need to bother focusing again on Bengaluru. What can Bengalurians do? What can citizens do? We've spoken about the government, but there's a certain amount of work, effort that people can put into. What do you think that is?
I think every Bengaluru citizen needs to start owning the city. We need to say that I belong here. And if I belong here, I will keep my house clean. I will ensure that I don't dirty up Bengaluru. I don't clog up Bengaluru. I don't build in places I mustn't build. I will not encroach. My attitude to traffic will be good, etc., etc., etc. Now, all this needs to be sorted out. And I think out here, the citizen needs to take the first step and say that I want to participate in the governance of the city. Because a citizen just cannot participate in politics once in 5 years when he, she, or they goes and plants a vote. It's not about voting. It's about participating. You are a 24/7 citizen. And I think all of us must become 24/7 citizens, not
that's a very, very important point that you put out, Mr. Bijur. And I hope all of you as are listening about how each of us is also responsible in contributing to our city and ensuring that these kind of scenes don't play out. Yes, there's a responsibility of the government, but we can also do our bit. Thank you very much, Mr. Harish Bijur, for joining us here on India Today. Let's hope that in a few weeks from now, we're not again covering the monsoon mess in Bengaluru, because this, what we just witnessed, was just pre-monsoon showers. Let's move on here on Super 6 and talk about the big international story and something perhaps that we should be talking about here in India too. In a major move to curb the growing menace of AI-generated deepfakes, President Trump, with First Lady Melania by his side, signed what's referred to as the Take It Down Act. It's officially a law now. This new legislation bans the non-consensual sharing of intimate images, including those created using artificial intelligence. It gives websites, social media platforms to remove these flagged content within 48 hours. Is the need of the hour for a similar legislation in India? More in our next report.
US President and the First Lady signing the Take It Down Act into law that imposes strict penalties for online sexual exploitation. The law makes it illegal to knowingly publish or threaten to publish intimate images without a person's consent, including AI-created deepfakes. It also requires websites and social media platforms to remove such material within 48 hours of notice from a victim. Platforms must also delete duplicate content.
Today, it's my honor to officially sign the Take It Down Act into law. It's a big thing, very important, so horrible what takes place. This will be the first ever federal law to combat the distribution of explicit, imaginary, posted without subject's consent, take horrible pictures, and I guess sometimes even make up the pictures, and they post it without consent or anything else. And very importantly, this includes for forgeries generated by artificial intelligence known as deepfakes. We've all heard about deepfakes. I have them all the time, but nobody does anything. With the rise of AI image generation, countless women have been harassed with deepfakes and other explicit images distributed against their will. This is the wrong, and it's just so horribly wrong. And it's a very abusive situation, like in some cases people have never seen before. And today we're making it totally illegal.
US First Lady Melania Trump, who played a key role in pushing the bill through Congress, called it a national victory.
Artificial intelligence and social media are the digital candy for the next generation. Sweet, addictive, and engineered to have an impact on the cognitive development of our children. But unlike sugar, these new technologies can be weaponized, shape beliefs, and sadly affect emotions and even be deadly.
Free speech advocates and digital rights groups say the bill is too broad and could lead to the censorship of legitimate images, including legal pornography and LGBTQ content. Bureau Report, India Today.
And as I wrap up this edition of Super 6, as always, we get you our daily fact check here on India Today. There's a picture that's doing the rounds of Preeti Zinta, owner of Punjab Kings, hugging the young cricketing sensation Vaibhav Suryavanshi of Rajasthan Royals. The reality is that this didn't happen. This photo is fake, likely created using AI tools, is what our fact check team has found. Preeti Zinta herself has said that she was completely surprised. This never happened. So be careful who you trust on social media. Watch out for all of these AI created images. Perhaps why we're talking about need for regulation as well, just like America has done. Thanks very much for tuning in here to Super 6.